So we had a pretty calm start to the week, and Bitcoin still rejecting 24,300. Today we're going to look at this extremely important price action because if Bitcoin does breach below 22,576, this is now our major support level. This is our previous weekly open, and so let's continue to monitor this price range here with a resistance of 23,795 and a support of 22,576 snipers. There's a lot that I want to cover today because as the markets were pretty sideways, I went ahead and labeled some of these puzzle pieces for this midnight update to talk about the short-term and the long-term outlook. And what you'll notice here is the S&P 500 right now is a bearish puzzle piece because we have yet to breach this recent high. If we can get above this high, right around 4,200 for the E-mini futures contract, that would be a confirmation of a potential reversal in trend. But so far, we just have a lower high forming. And now that we're seeing some red days in equity markets, Bitcoin is also not performing as strong. And what's very important for Bitcoin right now is the reason Bitcoin isn't performing as well is because against the S&P 500, you can see we're clearly showing weakness, forming this lower high, and Bitcoin's US dollar pairing formed a higher high, but we still couldn't outperform the equity markets. And so Bitcoin is still clearly underperforming the equity markets, facing major resistance. And until we can get a break above 23,795 or 24,300, that's when we can start assuming further upside targets for Bitcoin. And I also have this Ethereum to Bitcoin chart as a neutral puzzle piece right now, because just like the S&P 500, we've yet to get above this recent consolidation high. So far, we've only formed a lower high for the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. What we're monitoring now is this 65,000 Satoshi level as our major support. And then if we can get candles above 76,000 Satoshis, that would be that confirmation of a potential breakout. Interestingly enough, gold just moved above a very important level here at 1764. So this is also something that we're monitoring because it looks like we're starting to see gold get back into this range where it can open up the door for 2,000 again. And so we'll continue to monitor gold and the effects that it has on Bitcoin. The total market cap, you can see a bearish puzzle piece because we've yet to breach above $1.132 trillion. This is a very important resistance level. And so far we're seeing the total market cap not even get to test this extremely important area. And we're already seeing a push back to the downside. And so we'll have to closely monitor this. I will say that there is a bullish puzzle piece for the macro environment. And this is a bullish puzzle piece because this would assume that maybe we did see a bottom for Bitcoin, and right now we may just see another higher low coming in because the DXY so far has topped out and we're starting to actually calm down here. And the strength of the US dollar is clearly what was affecting Bitcoin. And so right now that we're moving below 106.56, this is an extremely positive sign that we could have potentially have seen the DXY top out in the immediate short term and that it's ready to come and test its 20-week moving average as a support level. The DXY being in a bullish trend over the last few weeks is what has caused all of the mayhem in the markets, of course, with the dollar strengthening. And so to see the DXY so far coming down is a very positive and bullish puzzle piece that, yeah, maybe we might see some short-term downside in the immediate short term, but that doesn't mean we have to cross back below 17,600 for Bitcoin. And so what that would look like is maybe if we do breach below this previous weekly open at 22,576, we come and we test that $20,000 level again to potentially form that higher low, or maybe even forming a lower low. Who knows? 17,204 is the range support in the worst case scenario if we start to see some downside here for Bitcoin. But with the DXY calming down, I think in the macro, it puts this $17,600 bottom as a very challenging place right now for the price action to get to, unless we start to see the dollar reverse in trend and break above 106.56. Then we can start assuming the US dollar is strengthening again. But so far, I would say that the best puzzle piece we have on the table right now is that the DXY alongside equity markets are starting to calm down. The equity markets have been sideways for really the past 30 days. If we look at the S&P 500's monthly candle, you can see last month's candle for June and July were the exact same price range. And so we haven't really seen much action since June, and Bitcoin also not forming further lows. The momentum is certainly slowing down for the downside. I would say that there are some bullish puzzle pieces that the equity markets could see continuation to the upside, and that's one part of the DXY right now moving to the downside. The equity markets have been following through so far with this breakout, and so I wouldn't be surprised for the E-mini futures contract to break back above 4,200, and that would certainly be a very good case for Bitcoin. But for Bitcoin right now, 24,300 is the most important resistance level, and that's what we'll have to continue to monitor. And sorry, there's a dog in the background, and there's lightning outside, and so I apologize if you hear the dog and the trainer, but it's okay because this is a midnight update, snipers. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if you support these updates. I see we've got Anand and Shaw on the live stream. Thomas says, thanks for posting. Snipers out. Crypto says, tell us about Bitcoin having a cup of coffee right now. Certainly having a cup of coffee and an espresso. And what's most important is that we realize what range we're in. So 23,795, the most important resistance, and 22,576, the most important support level. A break below 22,576, which is the previous weekly open, opens up the door for some volatility to the downside. And if we can get back to 24,000, at any point, Bitcoin can see some follow through with this move. That would be the most preferred scenario for the bulls. Let's see what happens. The DXY is starting to calm down, so I feel like at this point we can put the test of 17,600 off the table and just assume that we're starting to see the path of least resistance in effect, which is always sideways to a little bit higher. Anand said, I entered $22,900 short in BTC. So you entered in around 23,000. I wouldn't say that's a good entry for a short position. As I've been saying, you always want to short the resistance, right? And the resistance was at 24,000. If you have short positions around 24,000, then now you're in a pretty position because you can set your stop loss here at 24K. If we move back up, then you're fine. But taking a short position at 23,000 at the lower end of this range, it's anticipating a potential breakdown, but it's not really the best position, I would say. So I certainly wouldn't go long here. And so if you have to buy yourself a bowl of Chipotle tomorrow and you need this trade, I would say short is in favor right now versus long. So, I wouldn't pick a long over a short right now just because it would be tough to set up a stop loss. But if you're short, you can still set up the stop loss around 24,000 and that would still be minimal downside. But, a break below 22,576, maybe that could be a breakdown play there where you have some self-stop orders, because that would be a very important support level that gets breached, which is the previous weekly open, which, by the way, is what held Bitcoin from this recent higher high that formed. So that previous weekly open is super important. Nadeem says, been with you since the start. You might remember. I definitely do. Thank you so much for the long time support. Love Crypto says, tell me how to get my 300,000 back. Well, hopefully you didn't have that in Luna. Well, this is a midnight update, snipers. I wanted to give you guys my quick thoughts on what's going on in the markets and what I'm currently monitoring. I think the most important thing to realize with Bitcoin is we're being held down. We're underperforming the S&P 500 right now. And so far, we've only formed a higher high in the same consolidation, facing resistance. And so unless the equity markets can give us some more green days and Bitcoin can come back towards 24,000, we have to expect this downside area to be in play all the way up to 20,000, the 2018 previous all-time high. I don't expect the rugs to get pulled. I don't expect us to be catching a falling knife anytime here soon with the DXY starting to calm down. And so I would say that the environment outside of Bitcoin right now is very positive. It's very good for the price. Bitcoin itself is underperforming the equity markets, maybe because we're still in a risk-off environment, but that could change pretty quick. So you can see Bitcoin back inside of this channel, which is why I was saying we were still facing resistance and not to take long positions just yet. We didn't get a confirmation of a breakout, and we're clearly back inside of this consolidation. So we're still consolidating, while the S&P 500, you could assume actually already moved away from its consolidation and broke out from it because it's back in this consolidation. If Bitcoin was back in the consolidation the equity markets were in, it would be at 30,000 right now. But because it's underperforming the equity markets, we're not seeing that yet. So Bitcoin still has the green light. I would say the environment is still ripe for Bitcoin to break towards 28,000. But the longer it takes, the higher, there's a likelihood that that environment could shift into the bearish side, and that wouldn't be a good thing for Bitcoin. So, I would say time is important right now, just like price. And the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is going to be something I'm monitoring. As a matter of fact, I'll wrap up with this. The Ethereum to US dollar pairing could be giving us an early confirmation to whether or not Bitcoin wants to break further below its previous weekly open at 22,500, because the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is causing the Ethereum to US dollar pairing to underperform Bitcoin right now, and we're testing the previous weekly open at 1597. If we break below 1597 for Ethereum, then 1440 comes back on the table, opens up a pretty big door here to see up to 10% downside. And so if Ethereum breaks 1597, that could be our first confirmation that we're going to be seeing continued downside. If we hold above 1597, that would be a very positive puzzle piece. But expect volatility, because this is a very large range that Ethereum's in. 1760 is the major resistance in this range, and the major support is 1277. And so all this in-between action could certainly be on the table here for Ethereum. And with that, that was a great wrap to this live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in for this midnight update on a Monday. What a calm start to the week. Let's see what happens to Bitcoin inside of this range of 22,576 as our major support and 23,795 as our major resistance. And I'll see you guys next time. Snipers.